All right, so when you think that the loaf is done, the most important thing to do normally while you just yank it out of the oven quickly is to test it. So take like one of these. You want to give it a poke in an inconspicuous spot. It should come out clean or maybe with only a few crumbs clinging to it. If you do that, then you know that the cake is done. Then you want to let it rest for just a couple minutes. It should start to pull away from the sides, and then hopefully when you turn it upside down, it will drop out like this. Voila. Right? And you don't want to cut the bread when it's really, really hot, because then it will just mush. It's not good for the bread. It won't retain its fine and light texture. So now we will get the knife and we will cut and sample this. This is a new recipe, healthy banana bread. It contains no refined sugar. And then make sure that you washed your hands before starting this whole thing. Yeah. Now this is very dark, so I'm thinking it's from the whole wheat because it doesn't look overcooked. And I also use very, very ripe bananas. So you want to use super, super ripe bananas. The darker the better. Black is excellent. The darker they are, the sweeter they are. All right, don't be shy. Have some. Oh, it smells really good.
It does. Heavenly good.
Yeah, don't be shy. Yeah, no refined sugar. It has a little honey, but
Yeah, that's the reason I made it. It's fantastic.
is it good? I haven't tried it.
Amazing.
Let's try it.
She earned it. It's really good.
It's very good.
Guys,
You would never know that it doesn't have any refined sugar in it. All right, so we'll stack up a few more pieces for lucky souls that happen to walk by the pantry. Want some? Take it. Don't be shy. Yeah, it's a really good recipe. I'm quite impressed.
I want to learn how to do it.
Okay, so
Like, get my friends and.
actually, once you find out how easy it is to make really good bread like this, you will become just as insane as I am. Just warning you.
insane about baking is
Yes, like nuts, totally bonkers. Like,
Really good.
yeah.
I have another one.
Yeah, of course. You're a member of the club. We have to wrap one up for Yoli.
I'm gonna
too.
take half of it. Yeah.
Oh, this is my dinner. It's my dinner now.
And I just saw on YouTube a very interesting video about the different kinds of wheat and why modern, like white bread, is not good for you.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
if you guys are interested, I'll forward the link to you and you can watch it.
So which one they suggested? Whole wheat? Whole wheat flour.
This has 100% whole wheat. In fact, I left my whole wheat at my desk. I'll go get it. But this is made with 100% whole wheat flour.
Is it from the Red Mills? Oh.
Yeah, from Red Mill. Bob's Red Mill,
Bob's
which
Red
is
Mill,
an excellent U.S. brand. Okay, so we'll go get the, I'll go get the flour, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna mash up the bananas.
Okay.
So Janini knows the drill, so you can start with the bananas, and we need a fork. So, oh, and you know what? We should time this and see how long it actually
Yeah,
takes, because it
let's go.
really doesn't take
Okay.
very long.
The smell is going everywhere in the office.
I know, it's really torture, huh? We are so mean, the members of the baking group, right? Enjoy.
Very soft.
Okay, so let's take a look. The most important thing, we need a fork. The most important thing is to read the recipe first and read it several times, okay? And make sure that you have all the ingredients, because you don't want to get to the end and find out you have no baking powder, okay? Been there, done that. So overall, what you want to do, let me get a metal fork. Overall, what you want to do is you want to put all the wet ingredients together and then all the dry ingredients together, and then at last you join them together and just stir gently and put them in the baking pan. Right? So, good? Yeah, mash like crazy. Mash, mash, mash. Very, very, very mash.
Okay.
Mash, mash, mash. Right? Because you want it like liquid. And that's when the really ripe bananas, like if they're almost black, they're more sweet and they're easier to match because they're almost like liquefied. So mash, 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 mash.
I also measured the oil.
Okay,
to
good.
1/3 cup.
Good. So let's read the recipe together. 1/3 of a cup of oil, 1/2 a cup of honey or maple syrup, 2 eggs, 1 cup mashed bananas, which is about 2.5 medium or 2 large. We actually have 3 kind of small ones. 1/4 cup milk, which we actually really didn't need. Okay, yeah, we really didn't need that. A teaspoon of baking soda. Soda is different from powder. Not the same thing. Know the difference. Okay, baking soda, right? So some recipes call for baking powder, others call for soda. They're not the same thing, right? And if you're making a bread, a yeast bread, that's an entirely different animal as well. So don't get those mixed up. All right, and then 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You may be wondering why salt in a sweet recipe, because salt helps to bring out the flavor of the sweetness in food, okay? 1/2 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and 1 3/4 cup whole wheat flour, which I already measured. And optional, you can put in some nuts like pecans, chocolate chips, raisins, chopped dried fruit, etc., etc.
Does it have
Okay.
to be whole wheat flour?
This recipe does, but no, you don't have to have whole wheat. The first thing is we put all the wet ingredients together. So great job mashing the bananas. They should be like liquefied with only a few lumps remaining. Okay, then we put the oil in next, as the recipe called for, 1/3 of a cup. Some really super healthy recipes only call for applesauce and no oil whatsoever, right? And here's a little trick. If you have something very sticky, like honey, to put in your recipe, do the oil first. And then when you add the honey, it will just slide out of the cup and it won't stick. So this calls for, again, 1/2 cup of honey or maple syrup. So in it goes. And with most ingredients, except for the baking powder, the baking soda, which are the leavening, you don't have to be totally exact about the measurements, right? So if I got just a tablespoon more than 1/2 cup, the recipe would probably still come out really well. But if the recipe calls for 3 eggs and you only have 2, there's substitutes you can make, but you don't want to try to skip on the eggs because they help bind everything together. And notice how that there's hardly any left because we did the oil first. Okay, so honey, okay, now the eggs. All right. Give them a crack. Make sure you don't get any of the shell in there. There's 1. Whip, whip, whip. There's 2. There's the second one. Okay, so those are pretty much all of our wet ingredients. Let's get another bowl and we'll do the dry, which is essentially the flour, which I already measured, so it goes right in here. And Janini, why don't you get me out, it calls for, I think, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So there we go. And we'll get the baking soda. So I could go into a long lecture about different types of leavening agents, soda versus powder, but suffice it to say that baking powder and baking soda are 2 different things, so do pay attention to the recipe and what you have on here. Okay, there we are. So these are the dry ingredients, the flour, the baking soda, and the salt. All right, and this is the wet ingredients. So now, voila, we just add one to the other. So easy. And we mix, mix, mix. And those of you that might have seen me make this, the one that we're eating now, the one earlier today, might notice that that was quite a bit thicker, that recipe, and that's because of the liquidity of the bananas. So baking is kind of an art as well as a science. So what you want is you want a liquidy dough, not too stiff, but you don't want it to look like the oil, as liquidy as the oil. Obviously the oil is very, very liquidy, right? But this recipe does call for a quarter cup of milk or water, but obviously with this, because the bananas were very juicy, we don't need it. Okay? So now all we would do is to throw it in there and bake it in the oven. That's it. So I think it was like 10 minutes. So let's talk about different baking methods. So obviously here we're using the baking machine, right? Which we have in the office, believe it or not. Yeah, the former country manager, CTO, Rohit Duwan, maybe you guys know it, he bought it for us, right?
I never noticed.
Yeah,
You
so
told us.
also, if you're going to bake, obviously you need something to either bake or cook in. Now, Marionette, who's not with us today, has successfully baked in her rice cooker, right?
Yes.
And I saw recently some recipes that are to make things in a steamer, right? So you can do it. I've never done it. So I recommend that you need yes, you need an oven. Now, I understand also that you can even bake in a little toaster oven like this. I've made cookies in this machine before. Yeah. Yeah, and tortured all of our coworkers horribly by baking cookies in that. But I've never cooked in something quite that small. I have a tabletop oven, but it's a bit bigger. And then also in my second kitchen, I have a wall one. I would suggest that if you want to take it home, that's certainly something that you can do. You want to put it in a, do you have a pan? Because pan is also, okay. And then of course you want to oil the pan, or you can also butter it.
Okay.
Right? So you want to put that in and spread it around. Okay.
So 170 degrees.
Yeah,
half an hour.
170 degrees. I'd start at half an hour and then take it out and stick the little tester in it and
need to-
test and see if it's done.
Do you need to preheat the oven?
Yes, you should preheat the oven. That's a very good
For
question.
how long?
I would preheat the oven to 170 for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Right? Because you want it to be nice and hot when you stick it in.
Okay.
Right? So anyway, 10 minutes, that's pretty much done.
How do you oil that?
Yeah, so what you would do to oil a pan is I just put a few drops of oil in there, and then I either use my hands or a paper towel and just wipe it around the inside until it's really covered with oil and you can't see any spots that aren't covered. And then you just pour it in and put it in your preheated oven and you let it bake. After about half an hour, 45 minutes, take it out, do the testing, stick one of these in there, see if it comes out cleaner with only a few crumbs, and then take it out, let it cool, turn it upside down, and then wait a few more minutes. That's the hard part. And then you want to cut it. Okay? Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Think you're up for it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Right? So we made this in like 10 minutes, right? Except for the baking time. Baking is actually extremely easy, and when I found out how easy it really was and what a high ROI, return on investment, baking has, very high ROI, very small investment of time and ingredients, huge return, huge escalating return, right? And plus you make a lot of friends, right? So
100% customer satisfaction.
yeah, high customer satisfaction, right? So any other questions, thoughts? Okay.
So you can just swap the ingredient?
Pardon?
Banana? You can
Yes.
swap the ingredient?
Yeah, so here's all the ingredients, right? And I sent this on the link to the invite.
Did you add walnuts or
Yes.
stuff? When
Yes,
did you
she
do that?
she has a whole list right now, right before, at the very last, before you put it in the pan.
Like you have to mix it. Or
Yeah, so
it
you
has
put
it
it
on top.
Yeah, put a couple tablespoons in and then mix it. And if something is really, really large and it's quite soupy, like this one is quite liquid, what I usually do is I put a small layer in the bottom with nothing in it, and then I mix the nuts and the rest of it, because they do, if they're very heavy and the cake is very soupy, the ingredients will have a tendency to all fall to the bottom. So then when you turn your cake out, all your walnuts or all your raisins or whatever will all be at the bottom. So to combat that, what I do usually is I put a layer of just the batter in the bottom, then I mix the add-ins here, and then I put them in.
okay.
And then I stick it in the oven right away and hope that they don't all fall to the bottom. But it does happen sometimes.
If you have to put this into that baby oven, how much time?
No, it's too much. That oven can't cook this.
Can't.
But yeah, if we have some little cupcake holders, like they make silicone, silicone molds, I think we could bake cupcakes in here. and torture our coworkers.
Can you use
Right.
a microwave?
There are some recipes. I'm just going to add a little bit of cinnamon here because we forgot. There are some recipes for microwave cake, but you must get a specific recipe. You cannot bake a regular cake that's not specifically for microwave. But yeah, there's like mug in a cup recipes, and some people have made them. I haven't, but
Yeah, I once made like a Milo cake. Very easy, and
Yeah.
it goes into the microwave for like 2-3 minutes.
yeah, that actually might be a really fun cake for us to try, right?
Real
We should
bugs.
next time.
Yeah, maybe we can make it next time. Okay?
I'll
So
help
we'll get a container for this to take it home. And I would recommend as soon as you get home, turn your oven on and stick it in there. Okay? Because we've already added the baking soda, and if you let it sit too long, then it may lose its oomph because it's a leavening agent. So
Do I need to mix it again?
I maybe would give it a quick stir, but one thing that you don't want to do when you're making a cake, you don't want to overbeat it. Like you might think, oh, if I beat it, it will make it all light and fluffy. Wrong. It will actually overwork the cake and it will get very tough and very flat. So with cakes, you want to be like gentle with them and don't overbeat them. If you're making yeast dough, of course, then and you're making it the old-fashioned way, you want to knead it a lot because that develops the gluten. But that's an entirely different recipe and different technique altogether. Okay, so let's find a covered Tupperware container. We have tons of them here.
Oh, is it?
Homeless ones, yeah. What would you guys like to make? Do you want to make, we can try microwave cake, and I also brought a cookie recipe also, if you want to make cookies. But, you know, whatever you guys want to make, you tell me.
Microwave bread?
No. No.
Bread has to be oven.
Yeah, bread is microwave bread. No, I don't think so. Microwave cake, yes. Microwave bread, no, I don't think so. But we could also make cookies.
Connie, next time I'll teach them an eggless cake with yogurt.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, eggless cake.
Yeah,
Next
sure.
time.
I'll teach you guys.
Because
Okay?
we
It's a very
have
simple one.
we have plenty of time. I mean, you can see it. I thought it would take a whole hour, but it didn't. Meetings. We learned what we came to learn today. Yeah, I'll put it on top. That's it.
We have cleaned up the place as well.
You're not recording.